Listen, just one more thing.
Hello there. Welcome to my review of Columbo Season 11, Episode 3, A Bird in the Hand. First broadcast on the 22nd of November 1992 on ABC. Written by veteran Columbo writer Jackson Gillis and directed by returning director Vincent McKevity. The episode begins with shots of Vegas accompanied by Tony Bennett's Rags to Riches, as we see inveterate gambler Harold McCain, played by Greg Evigan, at various games before he skips out on a poker game with creditors in hot pursuit. We next see Harold torment his rich uncle Big Fred, played by Steve Forrest, while he's jogging, in an attempt to be charming and solicit some cash, which Big Fred is having none of.
You're not in trouble again, because if you are, you can damn well put the bite on somebody else.
For God's sake, give me a little credit, will you?
At Fred's mansion, his wife, the permanently soaked Dolores, played by Tyne Daly, is a little too close to her nephew-in-law.
Oh, my poor baby. Drink some orange juice.
Oh.
And he's using this to get cash from her. As they all watch Fred's football franchise play, Harold gets increasingly more distressed as Fred's team turn the game around and end up winning. He is gambling clearly out of control. As he stresses over his financial woes, he takes the lethal decision to put a pipe bomb on Fred's car, knowing that Dolores will be an easier income stream for him to manipulate. So far, this episode is very tightly plotted with clearly defined characters, relationships and motivations. Harold is a completely unsympathetic character who may charm some of the other characters, but our feelings towards him are similar to those of Big Fred's, and the murder he is about to commit is the culmination of his unsympathetic trajectory. The next day, Harold gets a call from Fred's business manager Bertie asking where Fred is, as he's never late, which gives Harold the perfect excuse to check in on Fred and to make sure his bomb worked without raising suspicion. But on the way, he's stopped at a hit-and-run accident, and the victim is none other than Big Fred, killed before Harold's bomb even has the chance to go off. This is a fascinating twist we've not seen before. The murderer has been beaten to it by an accident, but the murder weapon is still active, just sitting on the driveway. And to make matters worse, Columbo is on the scene, poking around the car. Harold is quick to get him out of the car as soon as he can, but there's now a Hitchcockian level of suspense, as we know where the bomb is, and so does Harold, but he can't do anything to disable the bomb with the police on the scene, and he has to ensure that no one tries to start the car, or he will commit a murder, and one that he never intended to commit, while getting away with his plan without having to commit the murder he did intend to commit. He quickly grabs the keys from the house to hide while Columbo discovers the gardener's truck has been stolen and located and appears to be the vehicle that hit Fred, suggesting that the hit and run may not have been an accident. In the commotion, Harold attempts and fails to disarm the car bomb as Bertie arrives with a film crew from Fred's network and clogs up the driveway, creating a need to move Fred's car. And while Harold thinks he has all the keys, the gardener Fernando says he has one for when he cleans the car, and becomes the victim of Harold's bomb. While the reason for moving the car is a little contrived, the fast pace it all moves at is enough to gloss over that fact, and the overall quality of the episode so far helps to create just enough goodwill for it not to be an issue for me. As Columbo is now investigating 2 suspicious deaths, Harold makes the fatal flaw of being far too helpful with some of Columbo's questions.
Do you think that a real pro would dump his gloves in the garbage? Here.
Oh, those are probably mine, Lieutenant. Oh, well, of course they are.
And is neatly rescued by Dolores, who, despite appearing half-cut, may be sharper than she looks.
That's what you think. And as for running a business, I was once Fred's executive secretary, remember? I still do most of his taxes.
As Harold slowly begins to unravel, Dolores, the primary inheritor in Fred's will, keeps up the drunken act until she reveals to Harold that it is an act. And she may be a lush, but she's no fool. As Columbo studies the footage the film crew shot of the car bomb, his colleague, Lieutenant Robinson, played by Frank McRae, is tasked with looking into the hit and run. Columbo seems to be having the better time of it, though, as he has a hilarious encounter with a Rolls-Royce salesman, trying and succeeding to work out how the bomb was planted on Fred's rolls. As Harold goes to try and squeeze Dolores, literally and figuratively, he's shocked to discover Fred's car back on the drive, before Columbo surprises him to let him know it's to reconstruct the crime scene. Columbo heavily hints that he knows Harold did it, which angers Harold, but Columbo still doesn't have enough for an arrest, so lets Harold go. But it certainly seems like it's only a matter of time. This doesn't stop Harold from trying to romance money from Dolores, and when she refuses, he suggests that he thinks she killed Fred, and tries to blackmail her. Based on her reaction to this news, it seems he's right.
How you wanted him dead, and now he's dead. Interesting, huh?
The twists and turns this episode takes are done really well, as it starts with a straightforward murder plot and evolves into something entirely more complex, and yet the complexity unfolds in an easy-to-follow and logical way. It feels like a more advanced and thought-out version of Last Salute to the Commodore, where all the pieces of the puzzle flow more naturally together, and we are kept abreast of the entire story. Until, that is, Harold is murdered. And while it's heavily hinted that Dolores is the killer, we don't actually see her commit the murder. This is a really clever idea, as while it's fair to assume it's Dolores, there have been so many twists and turns already that you begin to doubt yourself as to whether she actually did do it. Dolores is the one to discover the body and alert the police, and is all ready to blame his death on one of his creditors. Columbo appears to believe her, and Lieutenant Robinson is also convinced of her version of events, until Columbo discovers that Harold was playing poker all night, so was not disturbed in his sleep as it appeared. He then goes to show Dolores the tape of the car bomb, to demonstrate that Harold was expecting the bomb to go off. While this allows Dolores to now play the victim, as she acts shocked that Harold would attempt to kill Fred and be responsible for the death of Fernando. Columbo discovers Harold's cowboy hat at Dolores, which she says she doesn't remember when he left it there. But Columbo then finds out Harold was wearing it at the poker game and had had a haircut before he left the casino. That proves he left the hat at Dolores' house right before he was killed. It means her whole story was a lie, as if she was the one who claims she found the body, she also had to be the one who killed Harold. and while he can't prove she killed Fred, he has enough to arrest her for Harold's murder. After the previous episode, this is an example of how to subvert the Columbo formula properly. While the interplay between Columbo and the murderer is reduced to fit in the plot, the two murderers and the three murders all work within a cohesive story. I do think the final third of the episode is a little weaker than the first two-thirds, as it rushes towards its conclusion rather than taking the time it needs to set everything up properly. I would have preferred a slightly cleverer gotcha for Dolores, as the way Columbo discovers Harold planted the bomb is far better, even if it would not be enough to make an arrest. And while Dolores is undone by trying to be too clever for her own good, the explanation of how Columbo catches her is a little cloudy. It's a real shame they couldn't have given this episode an extra 10 minutes just to take their time over the finale, or spent just a little bit of time reworking the ending so it's that much more cohesive. But even so, it's still a very entertaining episode, with great performances all around, especially from Tyne Daly, who you never know whether Dolores is genuinely drunk or not, thanks to Daly's performance. For me, this is easily a 4 out of 5. Thank you. Goodbye.